she'll jump on as soon as she can. We have 5, so we have a quorum and we can start tonight's meeting.
Terrific. Thank you, Noreen. Okay, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
For all. Thank you, John. The flag back in its holder. Okay, please locate the fire exit nearest to you in your place of convenience. Tonight's agenda starts with
That's not on your agenda, Smarty Pants.
fire exits.
Not
Fire exits are
anymore.
always on my agenda, Noreen.
Not while we're in the office, not at home.
I sit 3 feet from my nearest fire exit. Please locate
All
yours.
right.
All right. So we're back with the continuing public hearing on 81 Raywood Drive project. Before we see if there's any members of the public who'd like to speak tonight, maybe we can start with just reviewing the latest information from our consultants. Sean, did you have some updates for us on 81 Raywood?
I do. Did you want to have the applicant do that first, or I can certainly run through my comments?
Sure, let's do that. Joel, would you like to bring us up to speed on where we're at? Anything you'd like to share with us tonight?
You're muted. Joel, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Okay. So we also have Larry here. So I think, Larry, do you want to start with the technicals, or basically I can give you the overview. So basically at the last meeting we had, there was a couple comments from the planning board members and from the engineer, and I think from the attorney too. I believe we addressed everything. And one of the things was a will to serve letter from the village of Kiryat Joel. This was submitted, and some revisions on the plan, including regarding a couple notes. We changed that on the plan and addressed that. We just received today a couple comments from Sean that we possibly still need to address. So I'll hand over to Larry to go into if there's any specific details you want to mention.
Good evening.
Hi, Larry.
How are we doing, guys?
Good.
Sean, if you want, I'll just go through your list. I don't want to steal your thunder. Is that all right? Or
That's fine.
okay. The first comment about updating the tree tabulation list, I believe what you're referring to, and I apologize, it looks like there's 11 red oak proposed that I did not list on that chart.
That's right. And Larry, if you don't mind, we did receive actually this afternoon comments from the Monroe Conservation Committee about, I guess you guys have met out in the field regarding some additional trees that they would like to see added to the plan. So that'll just be in addition, to these comments. So.
Okay, additional trees added, or ones that are being preserved, or what?
Preserved, excuse me.
Okay.
No, additional ones that I guess were located in the field and would like to see preserved.
What? I know there were several that were dead or not of great shape that they said would come out. I'm not sure. I thought we had everything as far as what was being preserved, but.
Yes, it was aired the last time. Larry wasn't out in the field. I was out in the field with the Conservation Committee together with Steve Dolson from Larry's office. So I believe there was a couple trees added to the plan. Larry, can you point it out on the plan? Is that the arrow, the new mentioned on the grading plan?
The trees to remain are designated with the TTR next to them.
Okay. So they added a couple trees, and this is reflected in the new submission on the on September 23rd. Is that correct, Larry?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, we could, I don't know if the latest plan, if the committee's had a chance to review it. If we missed one or two, I apologize. If they can let us know which ones it was, and we'll go, mark them as well, but I think we got them all.
Yeah, I think now we have all the trees on the plan. You can see much more X's than it was in the previous plan, because most of the trees that it's Xed out, this was mentioned specifically. We marked the trees at the site when we were at the meeting, that most of them are halfly dead or something like that, and they feel that there's no benefit of keeping them on the site.
That's something maybe we could just refer the plans to the Monroe Conservation Commission to review and comment.
Okay.
Those were plans from 9/23, you said?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, I will verify. I don't think I have any hard copies in the office. He would need a hard copy. He doesn't do the computer versions. So I'll double check in the morning, Joel, and I'll give you a call.
No problem.
Okay, the second item on Sean's list was regarding the proposed street trees. We just need to add a note that the 3 homeowners will be responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of those street trees. Basically, it's not going to be the town's responsibility. And we'll just, if there's a specific note, Ashley, you can let me know. If not, we'll just come up with one basically stating that.
So we're actually speaking, and Sean, you could probably speak to this too. I believe we were asking the town whether that could be incorporated into the stormwater maintenance agreement. So assuming that's acceptable to the town, then it would be, perhaps the note would reference that agreement as well, that it's being maintained by the homeowners pursuant to that agreement, because that agreement's going to have to be worked out with the town.
Yeah, that's a good idea to reference the agreement, so that in the future, if somebody's looking at the subdivision plan, they'll realize that there is a separate agreement for this subdivision. So,
Is there specific language in the stormwater agreement that you want for the trees, or?
I'm not sure there's specific language yet. I think Ashley's working with the town's attorney to iron that out.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've asked them if that would be acceptable to add something into their, I'm thinking there's probably a standard form that they use maybe for these stormwater agreements. So I've asked, I'm waiting to hear whether we could also add in something about maintaining the trees, and I think also the sidewalks, Sean.
That's right. So that's my next comment that Larry was going to get to. Let me share my screen. Last time this was before the board, we had discussed about proposing the sidewalk all the way to the edge of the right of way, since there is a trail that kind of traverses through right here, so that people could more easily access the road and the path. So I did review this with John Cherney, the highway superintendent. He said he didn't take any exception to the extending the sidewalk to the edge of the right of way, but he just asked that the maintenance of the sidewalk be included in the stormwater maintenance agreement, so that it was on the homeowners and not for the town to have to maintain.
Who typically maintains the sidewalks in front of individual properties? Is it the town or the individual property owner anyway?
I'm not sure the answer to that. It may differ depending on what what subdivision or what town you're in. So.
Gotcha. All right. So again, if that's the issue, then Ashley, you'll find out that can go in the agreement as well. Then.
Yes, so that's also on the list that we're going to find out if that could go in the agreement, and then the actual agreement itself could always be, working out that final language could be a condition of approval in the future.
Okay. And I guess the last item was just there's some, as far as in the SWIP itself, we need to provide Sean with the NOI, NOT and the stormwater certification for the preparer. It's just standard documents. We'll prepare those and get them included in the SWIP and then submit it to Sean for the final review.
Yeah, that's right. At this point, I don't think there's any technical data in the SWIP that has to be, revised. It's just adding those required documents into the SWIP. So.
Okay, that's all we got.
Sean, anything further to add in relation to what Larry shared with us?
I don't think so at this point. It's just a matter of checking with the MCC to make sure that, the trees that they had discussed were appropriate. And looking back at the notes, I think they had substantially addressed the other comments from the MCC. About, some of them were on the detail for the trees using biodegradable stakes and whatnot. So.
Ashley, any information that you'd like to review with us?
Sure. So just a couple of things. Joel had mentioned that they provided a will serve letter from the Village of Joel. So we did receive that, which I requested. So thank you for that. I have been proposing some revisions to that water agreement that was previously provided. So I've proposed some, and then Sean had added a few as well, technical comments. So we're now gonna review that with the town attorney to get their sign off as well. And then we'll get that back to Joel and his team so that they could review it, and hopefully that'll be acceptable to them in the village as well. As far as, so the tree plan, one additional thing that needs to be added would be the code requires you to have a note that talks about the penalties and performance bonding. So that's in 5784. It'll be a plan note. The other two things for the board to do would be addressing the recreation fees. So typically you do that in the resolution where you make a finding that there is a need for recreation created by the new residential lots, and recreation land can't be located on the plat itself. So in lieu of that, there's a fee that would be required instead. And then also the requirement for public improvements. So that's A65-25.1 and .2. So there's mandatory public improvements that if the planning board's going to require them, that's also, something that's in the resolution. I think this is a smaller type project that it probably wouldn't, require a public security agreement with the town, but you would have security measures in place to make sure that the sidewalks are, going to be actually constructed and all of that. Other than sidewalks offhand, I don't know, what else is in there, if you want to go through the list, or
the roadway extension at the end of the cul-de-sac.
right, the roadway. So so it's paved streets, curbs or gutters. So if there's curbs or gutters,
Yeah,
by the,
security. Yep.
so that's all.
So, hi all,
Hi,
sorry
Bob.
I'm late. So Ashley, would Sean put together an estimate that we have to review and then approve, or does that get approved by the town board?
So it depends. So the way I believe you've done it depends on the extent of the improvements. And for smaller projects, it would be, you're requiring the improvements, but rather than a public security agreement, there's instead there's a value, that estimate that ultimately comes from Sean's office, but I don't think that's done before the resolution. I think procedurally you require them, and in lieu of the actual public security agreement with the town, you require it by bonding in amounts that are determined in consultation with the town engineer. So I don't know if you want to go through that list to see if there's anything else. And if you think that it's something that would warrant a agreement with the town, or.
So I guess my typically in doing reviews myself, the engineer will come up with an estimate for a bond for any of the improvements, so that if for any reason the applicant abandons the project, there's a bond in place to finish whatever was started.
Mhm.
So that's the purpose of the bond. Is it
So
that
what-
we just need a bond and we don't need an agreement, or is this so small, we don't need a bond?
Yeah, no, it would be a bond still, but instead of a public security agreement with the town where there's a schedule and when things need to be completed and things like that. So if there was gonna be phasing involved and, if it's a large project where it's actually setting a schedule for when the improvements have to be done. So that's one option. And then for less intense scale projects, my understanding is what you've done in the past anyway, is that you don't require the public security improvement agreement, but then there's still that requirement for performance bonding.
So the way we typically do it is have the applicant's engineer prepare the estimate on forms that we provide them. They come up with the quantities and we have unit prices for those quantities. And then it totals a public security amount. And then the applicant posts that security amount prior to the signature of the plans. So
That could be in a condition of the approval then, that
Right,
get worked
yeah.
out prior to my signing of the plans.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
it's just identifying what the public improvements are that you're requiring before, that way they could be actually identified in the resolution, the improvements themselves, not the value, which we were just speaking about the road extension and the sidewalks.
Curbing.
Is there any bond that can be posted for we talked about some additional plantings on the property. Even though it's on the property, private property, can that be bonded to ensure if it doesn't get installed now because of the weather, that it gets done at a later date?
Ashley, didn't you talk about a landscaping performance security?
So I believe, yeah, and I'm just gonna pull it up now because your landscaping regulations provide for some bonding.
Okay.
That's 5784. Yeah, so that 5784 and then sub I, the tree plan shall designate the penalties and shall require performance bonding, letters of credit and or cash bond to ensure compliance with the approved tree plan. So their tree plan, I believe, is shown on the grading plan. That's where they have all the trees.
Correct.
So there would be a note there. I had mentioned before about requiring a note that references the penalties and then also the bonding. So that would be another thing where I guess the applicant, for the actual bond, they would submit the value that they think based on what's being, what landscaping is being done and all that. And then it'll go to Sean and then it'll all be wrapped into a condition in the approval that requires the bond and the form to be approved by Sean and the town attorney as well.
So our public improvements bond estimate includes money for trees. So could that be in the same estimate and the same security, Ashley, or do they have to be separate?
I don't see why not.
We have trees as screening, but do we have trees as street trees? And I know that, I don't know to what extent we could even install street trees, or are we mostly keeping whatever trees are in the front of the property? Looking at the plans.
It's mostly screening. I don't think there's any, with the exception of the few that are at the end of the roadway extension.
Mhm.
With the trees or plantings on the individual lots, would they be tied into ultimately them prior to getting a CO that the plantings have to be in, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something to talk about. I don't think they have to be installed at this point. I think it makes probably more sense that they get installed at C of O.
Especially this way the construction is done and not disturbed.
Right, right. I would like to make sure that there's inspection done so that the soils are adequate to accommodate the trees. We don't want, junk soils there so that they don't grow.
Just so my question is, usually what my understanding is that when you have a landscape plan, that is one of the conditions of approval, that before CFO, that's on the checklist from the building department. I just finished a building and I had the same thing. The building department went through the full approved plans, went through all this list of schedules of the plantings, and this was one of the list of the CFO. So the question is, why is that bounding? I understand maybe the outside trees around the road that may be part of the public improvement, like the road and the sidewalks. Just asking. So
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's two things. There's the improvements that are done within the public right of way. Anything that's being done that's part of the overall improvements with the sidewalk, the extension of the road and the trees there. But then we were talking about some kind of landscape bond, from what I understand, or landscape agreement for the other trees to ensure they get installed.
So
Is that the case, Ashley?
Yeah, so there's the performance bond for all types of public improvements, the road, the trees that are, in the right of way, that type of thing. And then the code has the provisions for the tree preservation law and the tree plan provisions. That's where they have a provision for bonding to ensure compliance with the approved tree plan.
Did that answer your question, Joel?
so my question is, for example, if these 3 lots are being sold for 3 individuals and everyone is building their house, and I understand that the outside improvements that can be done by the owner before he sells it, before he does something, there's a public performance bond, it's secured. But how does he's getting control on the lots, on something what is on the lot, on a private lot where it's sold after the fact? So that's just something, maybe it's in the law, but something what I don't understand how it's going to be implemented. Because my understanding was that anything, for example, like the house, the driveway, everything is being done by whatever who's building the house. You're not bounding that. Why is the trees something what's need to be bounded when it's part of their improvement on their property?
So that's in the law, and the tree plan, which would also be a condition of the approval. It's required to be referenced on the filed map, of course, but also on the deed. So the deed is required to have a restrictive covenant referring to that tree plan. So, it's, I guess, the developer, if you're going to be selling it to 3 separate individuals, but the bonding's a requirement of the law to ensure compliance. So you have that restrictive covenant, but in order to, make sure that those new owners actually go through with it, you have the bonding there.
Okay, I got it.
Any other questions from the applicant or the planning board? So, I mean, it sounds like at this point for our next meeting, we're ready to have Ashley draft a resolution so that we can act on it. If Ashley, do the water district issues have to be resolved before we pass a resolution, or is that something that can be a condition of any approval?
We will not need any water district. This will be one of the changes that the village agreed to change on the agreement.
So Bonnie, I've done some revisions to the agreement, and I forward that to the town attorney to make sure that, they don't have any other changes from the town's perspective. Sean had some changes as well. So once we have those all agreed on the town's end, we'll then share that with Joel. That way he could, make sure it's okay on their end and okay with the village. But that ultimately signing, that would be a condition that would have to be done before, would actually have to be signed and then filed with the county before the plans could be signed.
Okay, so that can be, if it's for whatever reason, there's still revisions that need to be made to the agreement, then that can just be a condition of the approval.
Yes.
Okay.
But I do know that the public hearing is still open. So if you want to, before, moving
Sure.
on to this application, make sure to see if there's anyone here from the public and give them an opportunity to speak and then close the public hearing.
So we do have 4 attendees. I don't know if anyone, looks like they're actually representing other applicants, but if you want to speak, could you raise your hand, or I don't know if that's Wade's phone number.
Ward is supposed to be on
Ward,
here.
sorry. Wade. Ward's number. I
You want me
think-
to allow him to talk?
Yeah, let's let 9031 speak.
I think that's him.
Ward, can you hear us? I think you're muted.
Tried unmuting him. I can't get it to work.
He's a participant or a panelist?
Yeah, I allowed him to talk, so if he
Okay.
unmutes himself, he should be able to talk.
Ward, do you have anything to say? I don't know if you can hear us and if you're able to unmute yourself. There we go.
Hello,
Hi.
Ward Brower. Okay, just a couple comments, a couple updates on the second walk we did with Joel with regards to the trees. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that walk was primarily, well, the Conservation Commission determined that some of the trees that had been previously marked to save were actually probably on the way out because they had somehow inadvertently backfilled higher than what they're supposed to have been done. I don't know when it was done, but anyway. Those trees will probably be dead within 2 years. So Joel agreed to substitute, and in the field, we selected other trees that were close by and would fit the bill. There was another question from Bonnie. It goes a while back, and she was talking about with regards to the arborvitae for a substitute tree from the white pine. Arborvitae, it depends on what's the ultimate goal you want. Arborvitaes come in variety of sizes at their maximum. Some range from 5 foot wide to 15 foot high. Some are 15 foot wide to 45 feet high. So I don't know what you want us to recommend. That we need to clear up.
Yeah,
can
I
you-
think I think what we didn't want is something that's slow growing and that's so columnar that there weren't enough, the quantity of trees weren't going to achieve a screening width within
Okay.
a reasonable time period. So something, it doesn't have to be super wide, but it has to have a growth habit enough that, you know, either we need 50 of them, depending on the species, or we need 10 of them. And I just want to make sure that within 3 to 5 years, you get, again, the planting growth where it acts as somewhat of a screen.
Okay, what we can do is I'll give you a couple of varieties of and their growing characteristics, and then you can select. You can make that decision.
Okay,
Okay.
we can do that with the board.
Yeah, I think that's probably that you can make that determination.
Okay.
And then as far as I had a question myself, and that was if this is for Joel, and that is what's the projected total daily demand gallons of water per day at maximum build out of these 3 homes? And then the other question should be a simple one: is this water metered? I'm sure it is, but I don't know.
The water is being metered, and I think
Okay.
it's estimated of 1,704 gallons per day. Total
What was that again, Joe? 1,700?
1,704 gallons per day.
Okay, thank you.
And it's being metered by the village of Kirishal. And
Okay, that was my 2 little questions, just sidebar. And pretty much that's about all I have.
So Wade, quick question. You said you went out there again, and
Well,
was
we were
there,
out there with Joel in September 23rd, I guess it was.
okay, and was
and-
there earthwork being done
No,
that hadn't? Okay,
no, Bonnie, you were also there. When you go on the site, it looks like in the front. I don't know how long ago. You can see that this earth, there was no movement for years. It seems like
okay,
years ago, someone filled something in the front. There's a couple big stones
Yep,
over. So that's what he's referring about too.
okay. I just want to make sure this wasn't
No,
a
no,
separate
no one.
other, okay,
You can see
Now, this
that.
has been done a while ago.
okay,
No, Steve, when you raise the soil up beyond the root area, you get into the bark area, there's little pores called lenticels. And it doesn't kill the tree immediately, but once you raise the soil up, especially if the soil is like a clayish soil, oxygen has to get into those lenticels. And it doesn't, as I said, the effects sometimes take 3 or 4 years, but eventually the tree will succumb. And Joel and I, we marked out and told them the questionable ones, and there's no sense preserving a tree that's not going to be there, why bother?
Mhm.
And I think we accomplished that.
okay. Planning board, do you have any questions of Ward, also known as Wade?
That's my alias. That's my alias.
No? Okay, I think we're good, Ward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Planning board members, do you have any other comments before we move on? I don't think that there are any other, looking at the attendees, any other public members present. So I think if you're all in agreement, planning board, should Ashley draft up a resolution for our next meeting? You wanna just maybe show of hands if you're good with it? Yes, okay. So we're gonna move forward. We're gonna
I'm
have
good, no
Ashley.
hands.
Thank you, Lisa. We're going to move forward. Have Ashley draft the resolution, get that in advance. We can all take a look at it. And then hopefully by the next meeting, if everything's in order, we can take action.
We have to close the public hearing, right?
Yes. Should we do that this evening or do it next month, Ashley?
You could do that this evening.
Okay, so we won't, I just don't want to ever run afoul of the 62 days. So with that then, could someone make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
John, may I have a second?
Second.
Noreen, can you pull the board?
Was that Pat who seconded it?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
and did Jason make it?
No, he's not on yet.
Okay.
All
Jason
right.
absent.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel and Larry, and we'll see you next month, hopefully for an approval.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
So next item on our agenda, and thank you, Jeff, for taking control while in my absence, is DG management. So I see John there. Lipa may want to be panelist, but he doesn't normally participate. And I think Joel, we can move to attendees. We good? You good, Sean?
Yeah, I think so.
Great. All right, John, why don't I see John?
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Hiding at the bottom of Zoom.
So tell us where we are. I believe you're here. You need to be referred to the Zoning Board of Appeals. If the board wanted to make a recommendation, they were going to do so this evening.
Yes, so at the last meeting, the board provided the recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals without any, I guess, opinion or correspondence to them, just the referral.
Mhm.
Also at the last meeting, the board did the lead agency, which I believe was circulated. And we also made a couple minor modifications to the maps addressing Sean and Ashley's comments regarding the lot one, the configuration of the flag lot. We reversed the front yards as Sean had suggested. And then we removed the open space area between lots 8 and 9 because it didn't meet the 75-foot requirement of being separated from the rear yard of a lot.
Mhm.
So those were basically the two modifications that we made. And this map was submitted along with an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the 50% open space area consideration. And I also did include the 75-foot rear yard to open space. I did have a question for Ashley tonight regarding that, but I did include it in the application just in case we did need it. I'm not sure how that applies to lots. I think it was 6 and 7. I'm not sure if we have the open space up to the rear property line, does that still include it in the 75 feet? Or is it if it's in a contiguous lot? That's what I was unsure.
Can we bring the map back up, Sean?
Sure.
And then just zoom in a little bit in that area.
Sure. John, I think I can answer that. I believe the way the town code reads is it's 75 feet on private property.
Okay. That's how I read it, but it was a little, I wasn't sure. So for instance, in lot 7, the rear yard is only 35 feet from the open space, but the open space is not on lot 7.
Right. That's the way I interpret it. Yeah.
Actually, do you have any,
So that is, I think, as far as those lots, so the law does read, I'm just trying to pull it up.
Because if the board recalls previously, the proposed open space area was proposed on lots 8 and 9 in this area,
right?
which was on private property, meaning on actual lots 8 and 9.
Right, I think the idea when it was drafted was that there had to be a certain amount of usable area on the lot. And so that's why there was a distance, I believe,
Okay.
of 75 feet.
Yeah,
So
I
it
just
can
wasn't
include
sure if it,
private yards within 75 feet of a principal building. I think it may, is lot 1, is that still portion of that is private?
yes, I believe
Is
it
that
does.
like-
It does still apply to lot 1.
And I think while you're there too, because I did include, I had sent the referral letter over that does mention that section as well. And I think it's the zoning board that interprets the code. So to have them, agree with that it doesn't apply, then that would probably make sense. Or if they, seem to think that it does for some reason, then you could address it there. But I think it seems like it wouldn't apply to those 2 lots.
Okay, perfect. I did apply for it, so
Yeah, they could
we're
say
covered
then
there.
you just don't need it for those 2 if that's
That's
it's
right.
best to have them.
Perfect. And that's what we're up to right now. We are scheduled, I believe, for the zoning board meeting next week on Tuesday. We're currently in the midst of doing architecturals for the buildings so we can get a more defined footprint. And then we're going to work on the elevations of those buildings, and then we'll work on the grading plan as well as the cross section, the additional cross sections that the board was requiring.
Okay. And then landscaping plan.
Yes, that'll be not forgotten, but at the end.
Well, another thing is we have to make sure that we're also following up with seeker. Whatever studies, whatever analysis has to be done as part of seeker.
Yes, 100%.
So at this point, Noreen, Ashley, when did the circulation occur? And are we past the 30 days?
No, so it was circulated the 20th of September, I believe. So
Okay.
you're not at the 30 days. No, I'm sorry, the 29th. Today's the 20th. The 29th of September. So you're not quite there yet, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything as far as objections, but we'll have to wait till the next meeting for that.
And Noreen, we haven't gotten any correspondence from any of the involved agencies?
No, I've gotten nothing.
So just for the board's benefit, when we circulate our notice of intent to be lead agency, any involved or interested agency has up to 30 days to disagree with our desire to be lead agency. And so before we can officially be lead agency and take on the role of overseeing the seeker process, we have to wait those 30 days. And so that time hasn't passed. So at this point, there's nothing we can do regarding seeker, and we can't open a public hearing until seeker is completed with either an accepted EIS or a negative declaration. So as we go forward, the applicant does have to get their variances. Actually, Ashley, if we're doing coordinated review, the zoning board of appeals cannot take action on these variances until we're done with seeker. So we'll need to make sure that we continue to advance the seeker process, and whatever analyses have to be done are done, so that we can get to the point of a seeker determination, because the zoning board of appeals will have to rely on our determination.
Yes, that's correct. So assuming that, the zoning board of appeals is going to consent to your being lead agency, then you're kind of on this dual path where the planning board would be doing the seeker at the same time the zoning board would be having their public hearing and considering the variance application. So it'll have to then come back to, so the planning board can approve, the subdivision ultimately without the variance, but before the ZBA could approve the variance, the planning board has to complete seeker.
As a total aside, John or Sean or Ashley, what's the building height allowable maximum in that particular zoning district? Because I don't think we're allowed to vary building height when we do cluster subdivisions.
I think it's 35 feet, but
5 feet, yeah.
35?
And 2.5 story.
Okay. Okay. So do any board members want to make any recommendations? Do they want to submit anything formally as a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals with regard to this project in the open space? Anybody? Oh, sorry, itchy nose.
I don't have a problem with that.
With making a recommendation?
Yes.
So do you have suggested language that we recommend this plan as shown with the open space as shown, or something to that effect?
I think brevity is good.
Okay. And again, it's up to the board. If there's a majority of people who want to send a recommendation, we will. If there's not, then the applicant just goes off to the to the zoning board of appeals for their variance process. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Do they feel the need to send it off with a recommendation?
I also think we should be making a recommendation towards the plan that's been submitted and in favor of the granting of the variance.
Okay. Anybody else?
I agree with that.
You're okay with that, Pat? Okay, that's 3. Lisa or Anthony?
Well, I know we've done a lot of work on the lots themselves. So maybe if we do put our input, then at least we know that our work would be considered. And yeah, I'd be fine with that too.
So maybe wording it in terms of the recommendation would be related to the analysis that the planning board did. And this is the configuration that came up. I mean, what are your thoughts, Ashley?
So it's really whatever, the recommendation that the board ultimately wants to give. So it has to, obviously be rational and be related to your review as the planning board, what you're recommending, this property obviously had some some issues with as far as the O&R easement. So that kind of, I think, impacted the ability where they were going to be placing these lots, and your analysis about where the open space could be located. So I don't know, how much detail you really want to get into, or if you wanted to, as John had said, keep it, short and sweet, and just we're recommending the variances be granted, or we're in favor of this plan with these variances.
I think we can do that. I would just say that we preface it with, we acknowledge the zoning board's jurisdiction.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that they are their own board. They have their own jurisdiction, because I don't want to step on toes. But that the applicant's been in front of us. This property is unique as far as the easement, and the board has worked with the applicant to come up with this layout, which requires variances, and, we're referring it to the ZBA for their consideration. Is that reasonable? Yeah. Okay.
So would you want to say something as far as, of course, recognizing the ZBA's jurisdiction and all that, and then saying that, just giving a little explanation of your review, and then recommending this plan, or recommend you're in favor of this plan? Is that something the planning board wants to say?
I feel that we have to just finish going through the seeker process to totally recommend something. But I think we could say at this point in the process, yeah. I mean, at this point in the process, we're recommending it.
Yeah, of course, because you still have to do both seeker and your planning board site subdivision review as well. So there's still,
Right.
A lot of issues. But as far as just the variance, I meant just I guess the amount of the open space, really.
Bonnie?
Yes.
I think as we've worked through the process on this project, the board has expressed that their preferences and my preferences for coming up with some kind of solution that involves a clustering of the homes. And I think that the plan is the best that we can come up with to possibly send, that the applicant can send to the ZBA to consider that. But perhaps we want in our recommendation to state that through working through the process, something to the effect of, through working through the process, the planning board has determined that it would be preferable to come up with an option that would involve clustering on this.
I actually like that. Because the idea is, we're clustering so that there's some open space, particularly with regard to, to the extent that it might be visible in the future, having area to be able to plant vegetation, to be able to screen views. And in their own review, they may come up with something, who knows, slightly different. So I think that's a good approach. Really talking about the clustering and supporting that in a manner that we can get open space that is beneficial.
Well, and it's going to, and I think it's going to mean less pervious surface. We're talking about a shorter length, cul-de-sac, as I remember, if we can come up with a successful clustering option. There were just multiple benefits. And But right, that was exactly my intention, is that by kind of stating it that way, the ZBA may see something that we and the applicants, they may bring something to the process that makes it the best possible project we can all move forward.
Right, so that we're not focused on saying we like these variances, but we like the concept of the cluster.
Right.
Okay, I like that approach.
Well, Bonnie, would you want, perhaps I could prepare something then for the planning board to review at the next meeting? Because I want to make sure it's, conveying your comments. And as we already said, you still have to go through the seeker process. So it's not like the ZBA would be able to make a decision without considering your comments then. I just want to be sure that, your comments are are fully conveyed to the board.
When are they going to be on the agenda with the ZBA?
They're on for Tuesday night, the what's next Tuesday, 27th?
So next Tuesday.
Is the introduction, yes.
Okay. And so they're not going to take action. They have to have public hearings, et cetera. So I think we'll have our next meeting before they have their public hearing or
I
open a
don't know
public
whether
hearing.
they'd be ready to set a public hearing the next month. It all depends on what's going on. Sometimes it's more than 1 month before they set a public hearing.
Okay. So let's, I think that's reasonable. Let's draft it, Ashley. If you want to circulate it in the interim between meetings, you know, because there may be some wordsmithing, et cetera. And then we can finalize it for the next board meeting. Okay. Everybody good with that? Anthony, you've been silent. I know you may have a different,
I don't agree at all with what the board is, planning board is doing, so I'm not going to endorse it. I wouldn't make.
That's okay.
To the ZBA, so that's why I'm silent on it.
Okay. So I was just between myself, Jeff, John, and Lisa, I believe. I think that's 4 members. That would be a majority.
And Pat, I think too.
Pat, yep. So, but I appreciate your thoughts, Anthony. I wanted to hear from you. All right, so I think that's where we are. I don't know that was there anything else that we were going to do, John, this evening, given, you know, we're still not even lead agency yet for seeker.
Yep, no, that was it. And myself and the applicant do greatly appreciate the board's input, work that's been done, and hopefully the recommendation. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ashley, anything else, or Sean, anything we need to address? Did you have any comments or anything you wanted to mention before the applicant leaves?
I think we discussed everything.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing else for me at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
So next item on the agenda is Eagle View Estates. And I see we have David Nemeko. We have Glenn. We can have Lipa as a attendee.
Do you know if Glenn is the applicant or?
I
Yes,
think
he
Glenn
is.
is the applicant.
Okay.
Yes, he is.
Hello,
everyone.
Hi.
You're unmuted. Open it up. There you go. You're welcome.
There we go.
You're right there. I know, but I want the screen to be bigger.
Glenn, do you want to be muted?
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to, I'm not
That's
good with the
okay.
computer. My daughter has to do it. I apologize.
We just see your daughter's eye.
No, that's my wife's side.
Oh, there, we see your wife.
That's my daughter, Gabriella. She's a computer savvy person. Hope everybody's well on the board, as well as expected.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll let you set up.
All right, let me see everyone. That's good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So Dave, you want to give us sort of an update of what's transpired? I don't think we've seen you since the ZBA. So
No,
why don't
you-
you let us?
Well, first of all, it's good to see everyone. It's nice everyone's healthy and doing well. So, and
Thank
that's
you.
important. Actually, we have seen each other once since the ZBA
Okay.
meeting. It was a while ago. We had presented 2 options at that time and was hoping to get the board's opinion, and we did. And so we reflected it in the current design that you have before you. It is all 3 lots now comply with the zoning code as shown on page C3 on the bulk table requirements. We conform as regarding lot area, lot coverage, the setback requirements, and everything else needed for that, for compliance. We're still entertaining the same sewer concept with the one line continuing to the existing manhole, and we used the information from the previous submission with included in this application or included in this design. The regarding the easement or whatever sewer connections are needed. We worked out the grading for the driveways to enter the 2 lots off of Lakes Road, and we believe that this is a viable option and it works well. Did receive the comments, and so you know, most of them are agreeable. You know, if we want to start to go through them now, that would be fantastic.
Sean, can you bring up now I'm remembering what we did, and I apologize. Too many planning board meetings. Sean and Ashley know. All right, so we have 3 conventional lots now.
Correct.
And Sean did a review.
Yep.
And so you had Sean's comments?
Yes.
Okay, so did you want to respond to them then this evening?
Oh, absolutely. Let's, yeah, sure. Let's go through it. Item 2, well, the first item under 2, you know, obviously we don't want a private road, so we definitely want the 2 driveways. Appreciate the thought of having a shared curb cut and then separating into 2 driveways. We want to reflect that, no question, in the next design. My only questions regarding that is how far in do we have the shared curb cut or the shared connection, and at what point do we need to separate the drives? Couldn't really find that defined in the zoning code, so that would be one of our first questions.
I would suggest it at or very close to the right of way.
Yeah.
Orange County DPW, as long as they're acceptable to the, you know, to the plan.
So if the board is acceptable, you know, it seems like it is a great design that we would like to separate it at the beginning of or the end of the right of way and divide it into 2 driveways. Would, again, through the reviewing the zoning code, couldn't find a minimum separation between drives. So we're open to suggestions of what the board would like to see. Or Sean, you know, or if I missed something, you know, Sean, please let us know.
We don't have, I don't think, any setback requirements of a private driveway from a lot line.
Not
that I recall.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's considered an accessory structure. I think that's the one thing we'd have to find out from Ashley. I have no issue with the shared driveway myself. And I know people want to kind of then probably maintain their own driveway. So I don't mind it splitting soon after coming off of Lakes Road. I think it just needs to be shared enough where they have whatever platform or landing they need. You know, grading so that it comes together. It's a safe entry point into lakes, or you have sufficient area going into the lot and then splitting off. I think the one thing you have to anticipate is if there's one person coming in and one person going, you know, out, just having sufficient area to accommodate that.
No, I think that's a great idea. And we've already started to accommodate that in this design, and we can enhance that even more in the next evolution. So, I mean, just as a concept, maybe 5 feet between the 2 driveways, 2.5 feet on each side of the property line. It could be a grassed area, and it's something as defining the 2 driveways. Is that agreeable to the board, or?
I would say that, I guess my one thought is the homeowners may want to have plantings for screening for privacy. So if that's the case, I would say enough area so that they could, you know, if they wanted to put some evergreens or evergreen type plantings or trees or landscaping, there's enough area. And again, all subject to Ashley and Sean confirming that there's no requirement as far as setbacks from a lot line.
So because this is a scenic road and it allows the shared entrance for the adjoining driveways, it allows them to be in the side yard. So
Okay,
that's
perfect.
in the code that where shared entrance is proposed, the planning board may allow driveways to be located within required side yards.
Okay. And then I think just thinking to the future, if it hasn't been addressed, because it is a scenic road, I think there's not supposed to be a lot of vegetation disturbed, other than for the driveway. So keep that in mind as you're grading out and designing the driveway.
Yeah,
Bonnie, I'll be hugging those trees. Don't worry about it.
there's David, section.
Good job.
Section 5721.4 of the code, there's specific requirements as far as the scenic buffer that's required. It has to be a 30-foot buffer zone from the right-of-way line, because that's a distance equal to half the depth of the required front yard. So there's other limits as far as the clearing. There's some map notes that are needed because of the scenic road. So if you take a look at that again, it's 5721.4.
We have no problem with that, ladies, board members. It's not a problem.
At the end of this call, just remind me, I'd like to get Ward in as far as a discussion about scenic buffer and trees, et cetera.
Okay, so just to reiterate, we kind of want a space between the two driveways that will allow some kind of landscaping, whether that be 5 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, something along those lines to screen it one driveway from the other. Am I
Yeah.
in concept? Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe more like 5 feet, but actually maybe this is an opportune time to get Ward to comment if he's listening in. Ward is our tree person.
Well, I'll allow him to talk.
Hi, Ward, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about what would be a reasonable amount of space between two driveways to be able to put a planting strip in. Let's say one of the homeowners wanted to be able to put in some plantings for privacy and as a buffer. If there was 5 feet on each side of the lot line, would that be sufficient? I know it depends on what you're going to plant. So let's assume they were going to put in a mix of evergreens, because that's typically what people put in for a screening.
Right. The thing that comes to mind when you do that screening, especially on is the visibility when you're trying to come out of the driveway. Some of these trees tend to get pretty big, except if you stay for real low cultivars. Mm-hmm. That's why I caution you. The other problem is winter damage from snowplow and salting. So you have to be careful on the species you select. Some of them are brittle. Some of them will not take the abuse of being pushed around by having snowplows, and none of them really like the salting of their water supply. So these are all things that need to be taken into consideration. 5 foot is a little tight in my estimation to get that kind of protection, like I said, from the winter type, which we sometimes get some bad winters, even with global warming. So we have to take that into consideration.
So I think if the shared driveway, from my perspective, if it starts to taper, like at the, it all has to come together to the shared driveway, and maybe there's less space between the lots. But as you get closer up to the houses, that's where you'd want more yard area, because that's in all likelihood where someone might want to plant some screening, put a fence in, et cetera.
Right.
Not a problem.
Any board members' thoughts on that?
Yes,
Go ahead, Lisa.
I have a question. On the plans, the shared driveway is 15 feet wide. So I don't know if I'm not following it right. Do they want to, is the proposal to put make it 20 feet wide and put a 5-foot strip in between it, because, you know, you'd have to make each driveway a certain, you know, width. So then whatever's there now is going, we're like, in other words, we'll get another plan showing of the strip of planting. And I don't know that 5 feet wide is enough to make what you're talking about as far as the privacy barrier. It's enough probably to plant some trees or maybe even some shrubs, but if privacy, you know, evergreens are just gonna continue to expand as far as, I mean, my experience, trees grow. So I don't know that 5 feet is wide enough that either they're gonna have to keep them well pruned or maybe make the strip a little bit wider, which is gonna make the driveway go from 15 to 20 to maybe 25, which I don't know if it's.
Yeah,
if they
so
can-
I think what's gonna happen is where it enters Lake Road, you have the shared driveway. The driveways are gonna be
Yeah.
together. And then as it goes up the hill, it'll probably go and separate to get to the houses. So in the beginning, as it's separating, there'll be less space between the driveways, but I think we want a reasonable amount of open space, yard area, as you approach the house. I mean, that's how I envision it.
So we're looking for the one curb cut off of Lakes Road, but then we want,
Yes,
what would be maybe 2 separate
Right.
driveways. What's the minimum driveway? Like, should we call it a shared driveway or should we call them 2 separate where you have to have 10 or 12 feet
It'll-
wide? You know?
it'll be, right, it'll be shared in the beginning and then it's gonna be 2 separate driveways. I don't know
Yeah.
that we have a standard for the width of a driveway or what the standard is typically,
At least 10 feet wide.
like 8 to 10.
We agree.
So the other thing is, after all is said and done, and it is in Sean's report, this all depends on Orange County DPW because they're going to determine where you can get access, where the best place is for site distance. And I think we can talk about how we'd want to design it, but and even with the scenic buffer, ultimately, they still have permitting authority and they may want to have certain amount of vegetation cleared to be able to provide the adequate site distance as people are exiting the driveway. So I think, again, before you go too far down the road with the design, I think you really need to talk to Orange County Department of Public Works.
Yeah, Bonnie, we've tried, you know, they definitely want the reference from the planning board. So they're not entertaining us on a private level, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
It's definitely going to have to come as a referral from the planning board. So, and I agree
I'm
with,
surprised.
I'm not.
Okay.
It's been typical even for another project that I'm doing, but.
What were you going to say, Sean?
I was just gonna say, we're gonna have to refer them for seeker at some point anyway, so, you know, maybe we can get their input then.
But Sean, I agree with Bonnie's point. I'd like to get the plans to, even if they're not fine-tuned or tweaked at some point, but at a point where we're basically happy with it, and then get it out to the 239 referrals, because we definitely need Orange County DPW's feedback as soon as possible.
So Ashley, would it be okay just for purposes of getting some feedback from DPW to send out the plans we have now to get a reaction?
Yes,
Since they're,
say it definitely makes sense to have them go out as, you know, as soon as you can. So I don't know. It sounds like what David was saying is that they're not really going to give feedback until there's something that, you know, the planning board's already, I think, reviewed in some detail and kind of thinks is a good plan. Is that fair to say, David? Or
That's completely accurate, Ashley. Yes.
so, I mean, you could send it and ask for feedback. I mean, maybe that'll be different if it comes from the planning board then, because I would hate to see, you know, this board spend the time and you spend the time here doing a review that ultimately they're not going to even want to, you know.
right.
So
It would need to come via the planning board.
Yeah.
Ashley.
So we'll send, if the planning board's okay with it, we'll send the subdivision plan to Orange County DPW. And we'll say, this is a referral from the planning board. We need your input with regard to the location and design of the shared driveway before the planning board can continue to finalize the design and see what reaction we get.
My only suggestion is that David update the plans to show the separated driveway, shared curb cut,
Okay,
as well as the site distances from the proposed curb cut.
Yes.
yeah,
I agree. 100%.
okay. So once you submit that plan, David, with the site distances, then Noreen can refer that off to Orange County DPW. Sean, you'll help her out with that, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
I'll need a hard copy for that, not just the PDF. David.
Is that a voice from heaven? What's going on? We're getting a blessing, huh? Of course, Noreen, it's not a problem. Not a problem.
That's Angel McSweeney.
Thank you, David.
She now has a nickname too.
I have
By the
a
end of this,
horrible
by the end of this
connection
meeting,
tonight.
everybody may have a nickname.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have a horrible connection tonight. I'm having a very hard time hearing most of the meeting, so if you call my name and I don't answer, it's because
Okay. You actually cut out, so we understand, Noreen. All right, so why don't we move on with the comments?
Sean, it's up to you. Do you want me to do so or you do so? It's not a problem.
I can run through it, that's no problem. So we talked about the site distances, which was, let me pull up the plans. Which was the third bullet from number 2. Next was the force main being proposed in this hatch here.
Yes.
So that will require a sewer main extension from New York State DEC and approval by the Moodna Basin. They're the operators for the sewer district.
When you send it out, we'll get their review.
No, Moodna is a separate entity.
Yeah.
The operators for the system.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we get, when we were looking at the prior layout, a letter from the operator?
Yeah,
From,
Bonnie, we actually got 2 letters of approval, one from Moodna Basin and also from their municipal engineer, not municipal, from their consulting engineer, Lankin Tully.
So,
Approving the 3 houses coming together to a force main into that existing manhole. And I could redistribute that.
yeah, so my question, and it's for Ashley, is that we recently received a letter about allowing additional connections to the Moodna because we're over our allocation. Do we need to just confirm that this project is excluded from that?
Confirm with, so it would be with Orange County DPW. The way I read the letter is that it would not be, it would.
Oh, it doesn't apply to this?
Okay, this board hasn't, so they don't have any approval yet from the planning board. The way I had read it was that any project that is, either seeking to be developed or approved at this point, there's no available capacity for properties to connect to use the Harriman wastewater treatment plant that are outside of the Orange County Sewer District number 1. So
Which
this is something that
both the existing properties are outside.
So that's a problem that needs to be addressed because there needs to be sewer. I think it was contemplated that there was going to be this, ability to connect to have central sewer, and this letter is indicating that is not a possibility. So that's something that needs to be discussed with DPW. And I know I think the letter indicated they weren't able to contract with private homeowners at this time. I don't know whether that's something that, could be discussed with them. David could maybe convince them.
Thank you, Sean.
But this is.
And this is a letter we're referring to, David and Glenn.
Yeah. I understand. That's why I would like to get this into review by Moodna Basin. Orange County DPW will review the Lakes Road entrances and exit, but Moodna Basin, I think, would review the sewer aspect of it, like they did last time. So if we could distribute the plans to them or the next round of plans, I think that would be timely, without question.
So it'll have to go to both, because the issue, and it, as is stated in this letter came from the county saying that that agreement, the Moodna and Orange County Sewer District 1, that agreement, there's no longer any capacity available through that for the town to use for new projects.
Well, yeah, well, the last sentence, it says that it said our Harriman wastewater treatment plant should address how the related sewer capacity for such development and/or project will be met consistent with the existing Moodna Orange County Sewer District #1 agreement. So I'd like to give them the opportunities to see how this project would
Okay,
be.
so
Yeah. And Ashley, I got a feeling that one of the ways it's going to become consistent is in our previous submission, Moodna Basin asked us to have grinder pumps associated with the sewer. So, solids would be grinded first, not distributed into the sewer system, and only liquids would go directly there. So I think I'm.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think
Frankly,
it-
when
I
we
think-
worked on the,
Not solids.
go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, I think the issue is capacity, not solids. So.
Yeah, when we had worked on the comprehensive plan a few years back, there was already an issue with capacity. And it was set aside for specific projects that already been through the approval process. And I think finally the county has weighed in on not allowing any more outside users to hook in that are within the Moodna Basin Commission's jurisdiction. So I think you do need to go back.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think we can presume that because you had, received some sign off prior, that that's the case now. Is that something we send out, or is that something that David can send directly? And it's going to Orange County DPW?
Well, if the plans go to Orange County DPW for the driveway entrance off of Lakes Road, but it goes to Moodna Creek for the sewer.
That's not what I'm sure of, because that letter that was sent to us was from Orange County DPW.
Yeah, this letter, it definitely needs to go to Orange County DPW for purposes of sewer as well. So I think it would go to, perhaps.
And DPW would be
Yeah,
my.
and
Yeah, well,
I guess like the history where, this was previously reviewed by the Moodna Basin, and they indicated, whatever they indicated. I don't, maybe even just include copies of whatever they had previously said, that way their comments, are clear, and asking, I guess, Moodna and Orange County to let us know what.
so we're going to do the referral anyway because of the DPW and the roadway getting a reaction from them. And in that referral letter, we'll also ask for their input with regard to the letter we received from them about the Moodna Basin, and then we'll attach the letters that David had previously obtained from the commission and see where things stand.
And if it's agreeable with the board, in the next submission, we'll include all those letters of a previous review. So you can go ahead and forward those letters along with the new plans.
Yeah, I think we have them,
Good, okay.
I think, but we'll make sure. Noreen can check. All right, so we have to deal with that. And that was one of Sean's comments.
Mhm.
Additionally, the proposed sewer easement is shown as 3 foot wide. I'm just not sure if that's feasible for maintenance long-term. If it, say it has to be replaced, how does someone get on there with an excavator and stay entirely within the easement? So, perhaps the applicant can look at widening that easement. Additionally, it looks like there's an easement proposed on lot 2 that would only benefit lot 2. So I'm not sure if that's what would be necessary. Maybe Ashley could talk about that.
Yeah, so that it wouldn't be an easement if you can't give yourself an easement. So if it's something on the property that's only to benefit that property, it wouldn't be an easement.
So in other words, it wouldn't be necessary.
That maybe David, is that what that is showing?
Yes. So, and in retrospect and in light of that comment, we agree the easement doesn't need to be there. And it really helps a lot because that'll allow us to widen the easement from lot 1 and the Walton Terrace lot to respond to Sean's comments. So I think that would be great.
So who would the easement be for?
So, and
who would benefit?
So right now we're referring to this section of the easement right here.
Yeah, but I'm saying are there going to be 2 separate sewer pipes, one for each lot? And so the easement on lot 1 would be for lot 2's benefit to repair that.
In this section, yes, that's how they're currently proposing it. That there's one shared force main for lots 1, 2, and the existing.
So if there was a problem with that force main and it needed to be repaired, who would bear the responsibility for repairing it?
I believe the planning board could require a maintenance agreement for the force main so that that's spelled out in that agreement.
Yes.
Something the applicant could consider is separate force mains for each house that they would own and maintain their own force main.
Thank you.
And Sean, actually, I agree. But when we proposed that to Moona Basin during the previous submission, they rejected that. That's the only reason why we combined them.
Okay. So moving on, just some minor cleanup. The profile for the sewer main requires a 4.5-foot burial depth. The detail only requires a 3-foot burial depth. So that's just minor cleanup here, and then on the detail on the last page.
I can't hear you.
Cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry. So just minor cleanup on the force main. The profile requires 4.5-foot burial depth. The detail requires 3 feet.
We agree. We'll revise the detail.
And then revising the pavement restoration detail to match the town code standard. And then we already talked about the DPW letter. And then referral to county planning and will be required at some point, and then seeker should be discussed with the board's attorney.
Just one quick point that when you are separating the driveways, that we still have to think about our impervious surface limit.
Yes.
So as you're designing this, just again, be mindful of that, however you split it and decide how to design it.
Yes. I have a thought on that. I'd like to just share with the board preemptively in case when we start to relocate the driveways in the house. The zoning code would allow us 35% lot coverage if we introduce water quality measures. And lot 1 is the one that's of concern because if you could see in the bulk table, we're already at 14.7% lot coverage. Would it be agreeable to them if we introduced a rain garden on lot 1 or to increase the lot coverage in conformance with the zoning code?
Let me ask this. How many acres are you disturbing? And I know you probably have to put erosion and sediment control measures in. Do you have to put in stormwater?
No,
facilities anyway, or that's only for this?
only for this.
I mean, I think you propose it and I think Sean has to review it.
Okay.
It has to function and it has to work. But if I recall, and maybe Ashley knows, I thought that any of the measures have to be reviewed by the town engineer for their effectiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the water quality control structures, when a proposed development integrates stormwater quality controls, the planning board may permit an increase in the total maximum lot coverage to 35%, provided it finds, in consultation with the town engineer, that the stormwater quality controls will reduce potential water quality impacts to pre-development conditions. So it's up to 35% too. So obviously 35% would be the maximum, I think, unless, I don't recall what the lot coverage is
15.
in the overlay, and then also whether, if the actual district only allows something less, I don't know whether that's
And to put
another
the-
cap, but it would be, that would be the utmost maximum. So it would be, if you wanted to propose some kind of quality measures, that something above 15, it doesn't have to be, 35, but.
Yeah, and to put the board's mind at ease, we're not looking to get 35, but I can see where we move the driveway a little and a house over, we may break that 15% barrier by a point or two, and a rain garden or water quality measure would just alleviate that concern. And actually in the previous design, we already had started, I don't remember how far we got, but we started introducing rain gardens at that time. So I was hoping that it would just be acceptable to the board, or at least they would entertain it. And of course, subject to Sean's review. It's not a problem. And again, we're not looking for 35%, where it's somewhat possible we may break the 15% barrier by a couple of points.
Okay. And I'm speaking for myself, but I don't know that, I mean, ultimately the home that's on the lot that doesn't go out to Lakes Road, we want to see a reasonably sized house, that is relative to the houses that are on either side of it. I don't think we want to see a monster house with tiny yards that are unusable. So I think about that as you're weighing sort of impervious surfaces.
And we agree, Bonnie, 100%.
Okay.
It's only a measure to help address the 15% concern while we're doing the redesign for that driveway.
Okay.
It's not a measure that we're proposing to increase the size of a house to a huge mansion or anything like that. It's just to address the lot coverage.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was that it, Sean, with your comments?
Yes.
Ashley, do you have comments?
Yeah, so I think probably discussed a bunch of them already. The biggest thing is really the sewer service that needs to be addressed, because the applicant will need to show that there's that the properties will be served by some sewer in some fashion. So that's a big thing. Kind of related to that is seeker. So I didn't see, David, whether you had submitted a new EAF.
We have not yet.
Okay. So
But
I know the board previously did seeker on the cluster subdivision proposal. This is obviously different, and now you have this complicating sewer issue as well. So that'll need to be submitted. The board, I think, previously did an uncoordinated review. I don't know whether you want to continue that, or after they have the EAF, I guess could decide after they see the different agencies that are involved whether they want to do a coordinated, because I believe in addition to the sewer, I think we had discussed the wetlands, and there might be some permits because of constructing the driveway in the wetland buffer. So there's the local wetlands permit, and I don't know whether it's also subject to any other agency wetlands permits. I did have a question on sheet C3. The zoning table has an asterisk, and it's saying that lot coverage calculation excludes the sewer easement area. I just didn't quite understand what I don't know if I was reading that wrong, or just wanted to make sure I understood what that meant.
We learned well that the easements cannot be included in the calculations. So we eliminated them, or we subtracted them from the total lot area to get the effective lot area, and then based all our calculations on that. So lines 1 and 2 of the bulk table.
Okay, so that's for the actual, for the lot area calculation.
Correct.
Okay,
And the lot coverage calculation.
okay.
So he's saying the lot coverage is based on the net lot area.
I thought lot coverage was based on gross.
That would be fantastic. I'll take that right now.
I'm sorry, hold.
I thought lot coverage might be based on net.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what, and then to get the net, that's you take out the easement. Okay,
Without the easement, yes.
that's really, okay.
However, we're open to a new interpretation.
On the bottom of sheet C3, the project description and notes. So note 1 is going to have to be revised to indicate that lots 1 and 2 are going to have a shared entrance.
Yes.
And then note 3 would need to be deleted because it's no longer a cluster subdivision.
Correct.
The other, standard subdivision issues as well, the requirement for public improvements and rec fees, that's something the board will have to, discuss at some point down the line. But the biggest thing really is the seeker and the sewer, and hearing back from Orange County DPW on both the sewer and the driveway.
Yes.
And I think as of now, that would be it. But once there's the new EAF submission, then the planning board could decide how to, proceed with seeker.
Yeah, let's get that in, and then I guess we'll take that up at our next meeting.
That's not a problem.
All right. Anything else, board members?
Bonnie?
Yes.
Yeah, just one suggestion for David. If you are going to propose a rain garden for lot 1, I don't think that lot 1 and lot 2 need to mirror each other. I do think there needs to be some balance, and I would suggest you consider doing a rain garden on lot 2 as well. I think since the property runs downhill towards Lakes Road and the lake itself, anything that would help mitigate any additional runoff and improve absorption would be beneficial.
Let's see how excellent point. Not a problem, Jeff. Let's see how it works out with the lot area. And if so, it's not a problem.
Anything else, board members? No. Okay. I think that's it for this evening. When we have your updated plans, David and Glenn, we will get that out to Orange County DPW, because I think everything's going to revolve around their input.
Great.
No question.
When's the cutoff date?
I'm sorry, repeat?
The cutoff date, submission date?
For the November meeting is October 29th at 2 p.m.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, board members. Appreciate it. It was a great meeting, and we'll get those revised plans to you. And thank you in advance for referring them out so we can get those comments.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
So David, you don't have to, for the referral itself, you don't have to wait for the in-by date. We'll need whatever you need to get on the next agenda with seeker, but if you want to submit earlier and sooner, just so we can get that out, that's fine.
That would be fantastic. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll rock heaven and earth, see what we can do to get that done.
Okay. And then Glenn, did you have a question, or are you good?
Yeah, no, I have a question if you don't mind. I'm sorry, David, but I would like to get a little understanding of something as well, real quick. My concern is that if David turns it around expeditiously and the board receives it, what's, I'm not gonna say the guarantee, but will DPW and the other agencies respond efficiently and effectively to the planning board? Because as David noted earlier, they have, I'll use the phrase stonewalled any responses to David's office. That's why he implored you today to maybe have the planning board submit, so we receive some type of submission back from them on what their viewpoint is. That's my only concern, because, you know, time, we're 20 months into this plus. I was just wondering if we're gonna be at the end of the road soon.
I mean, I think all we can do is do the best we can by referring it, and hopefully that'll give you a different reaction. I don't know why it's taking so long, because there are other projects in other communities that are being reviewed. So maybe it's just, I don't know that in those other communities it's being referred by the town directly, but hopefully this will help. And if you don't get a response, then we'll need to figure something out.
No,
I'll reach out.
It's being referred to by the towns. So
Okay.
I'm confident that your referral will move them along. Without
Okay.
that. I'm confident.
Okay,
Okay.
I appreciate everybody's
All right.
time.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone. Good night.
Good night. All right. So we're up to, I think, the fun part of the meeting. Which is minutes. And at this point, Ashley is allowed to exit the meeting if she likes. Unless there's something else you want to bring up, Ashley, before you get off.
Not that I could think of at this point.
Okay. So thank you
All right.
for all your help. And unfortunately, Sean has to stay on.
No problem. I just want to.
Have a good one. Thank you.
At the last meeting, you had asked me to reach out to Ben about the Harriman Business Park end space. And an article
yes.
in one of the papers. So they only have conditional approval.
Okay.
Met all the conditions of the approval yet. So Ben has not gotten a building permit from them yet. So I don't know what that article was referring to. And I'm sorry, I didn't personally read it, so.
That's okay. I think Jeff had run across it, right, Jeff? Was it you that saw that? Or was it Lisa? You're muted.
I think I just unmuted.
Yeah, I'd seen it. I'd actually seen it a couple of times, and yeah, but we all run fake news here and again, so maybe it was just
Better that fake news than other fake news.
Hey, listen, listen, rumors happen.
All right, so minutes. Does everybody have the minutes? Noreen sent them. Noreen minutes. All right, which we have
514.
515. Does it say 514? Because the agenda says 515.
The minutes say Thursday, May 14th.
Let's see, make sure we get our date right. May. It would have been the 14th. So it's just okay, get this up again.
It's a typo on the agenda. It's the 14th.
Oh, here we go. All right, let me share the screen. Do. I think it's this one. Okay. So everybody was present. And we discussed Raywood. Did anybody have any changes? I would just say Noreen, need to hear back from Orange County DPW, not DWP. Stormwater plan trigger SWIP is commonly abbreviated as SWPPP.
Top of page 3, third line down, reads Chairman Franzen. So T this point, even though, and I believe it's at this point.
Yep. So we're at the
My input.
page. Is that? So Noreen? Now I
Yes,
remember this. We only have pages 1 and 3.
you should have a new scan with everything that I put out Thursday
Oh.
or Friday. You'd
Yeah,
have
I've
the
got-
agenda.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right. I
we-
brought up the wrong one. I must have
have
the
it.
older one.
It came with the agenda the other day.
Okay. So let me stop sharing.
It's an email dated Friday, 10/16.
I'm good you're here.
SWPPP, 3 Ps.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, that's what it stands for.
Thank you. I think I had that written down somewhere.
Did we lose Bonnie?
Looks like it.
We lost Bonnie?
Yes.
Let's wait a minute, see if she rejoins us. Anyone else have any other feedback for Noreen on these minutes?
I don't know what we did with other minutes, but it just occurred to me that sometimes we would mention where the meeting was located. So it does not have an address, but
Oops.
I don't know if we should, no, but there is no address. So should we somehow notate that, you know, the May meeting, the June meeting, any of these meetings have been whatever we want to say, remote or virtual or on Zoom. I don't know if it's necessary, but that's something I was thinking about.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I do too.
Sorry about that. All right, and now I have the right minutes. Share screen, share, all right. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we were up to page 3. And then there was Verizon Wireless.
Yes.
And then Joel Stossel. So is everybody good with the minutes at this point? All right, with the changes as noted, would someone make a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make that motion.
That's Jeff. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That's Lisa. All in favor, just raise your hands, or if you're not visible, then just say, Lisa, are you good?
Yeah, sorry, I'm good.
Okay, so they are approved unanimously.
Thank
And
you.
then the next one is 611.
Yes.
Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody, 6 are present. Who are we missing?
Anthony.
Anthony, okay. Any comments on this one? I would just say, and Noreen on page 2 of 5, motion to declare intent to be lead agency before the resolution.
I usually take that out. I forgot to, but I can leave it.
Okay,
It's just so I know where to stick the motion in when it comes up.
right. Or motion to be lead agency. Okay, Raywood Drive. Again, just SWIP. Whenever you have SWIP, change it
Yeah.
to SWIP with the 3
That
Ps.
extra P.
Yep. And then we have our motion to be lead agency for Raywood Drive. We did the neg deck, public hearing. Joel Stossel. And we had DG management. Any other revisions to this? Verizon Wireless. So if there are no comments or revisions, then I will make a motion that we approve the
Aye.
minutes.
I'm
Yes,
sorry, could we do the same thing with the virtual or the remote? I mean, I don't know that it needs to be mentioned again, but
I made
yes.
a note to add the location.
thank you.
So we'll do that to all the minutes going forward, Lisa.
Yes.
So motion to, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes dated June 11, 2020. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
That's Jeff. Could you raise your hands if you're approving?
I approve.
Okay. Anthony, do you
I
approve?
can approve, but I wasn't there.
Oh, that's right. So you're recusing yourself. So we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4, 5. We're good.
Yeah.
Jason is absent and Anthony recuses. I think technically, and we can ask Ashley this, that if you look at the materials and if you read the minutes, I think you actually can approve the minutes, although that's not the procedure we followed.
I think you're right. I agree. I've heard that before, so.
Yeah, I think it'd just be, whatever our policy is, I think it'd just be useful to hear from Ashley.
Yeah, and I'm not holding it up, so it doesn't matter.
And that doesn't matter in this
It's a
instance.
formality.
Okay. And with that, do board members have anything else you want to add? Anything you want to say? Comments?
I think my board membership is due this year. I don't know if Noreen, if I need to do anything or if there's a process that I have to follow.
If you want to continue, you send a letter to Mary Ellen Beams and I believe Jen at Tony's office saying you wish to continue. Then at the reorg meeting in January, they'll reappoint you. If you wish to not continue, you should do a letter sooner than later so that they look for somebody, but I'm hoping you're going to continue.
Thank you.
Me too.
Yeah.
Is it your intent to stay on, Anthony?
I would like to stay on if it's okay with the other board members, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It's funny. I started and I wasn't sure I wanted to stay, but I'm enjoying this, so I appreciate it.
Good.
So then just
Definitely.
send a letter and CC me on it.
Okay.
Is
Great,
it time?
I'd like to make a motion in favor of Anthony staying on the planning. board. Can I have a second?
Second.
You're too kind.
All in favor?
Aye.
So Anthony, what was your term? Were you filling someone's term? Because it seems so short.
Yeah, I think I can't remember his name. I don't remember. I was filling a term.
Was it Gary? Maybe it was Gary?
No,
It was the person.
Jerome?
Jerome, I think it was Jerome.
no.
Uh,
Jerome was still here when I started. Anthony, you were here when I started, and Jerome was in his last year. So you were filling somebody before that.
Anthony, you were here before I was.
Maybe it was Rich. Maybe it was Rich's.
Nope.
No, I was on the board
No.
at the same time as Rich.
Audra?
No, I
Nope.
was on the board at the same time.
I don't know who it was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. Well,
But I
so
believe,
we'll.
I don't think I think I'm correct, right, Noreen? I'm due?
Yes, you are this year.
Okay.
Is everybody good with their training? I think just a reminder, everybody, that you do have your four hours of training, I believe. So just make sure that to stay on the board, we need to have the training.
Noreen, I have that screenshot for you. I took a training last week, and when it, at the end of the webinar, there was a link to log your attendance or something. And when I clicked that link, I had to set up an account. So I set up an account, but then that link was gone to log.
Send me what you have. They'll be able to tell me if they
Okay.
question it. But just send me what you have.
Okay.
Get you, Jeff. You're way over, but so are you, Bonnie.
So my understanding is that if it's an official webinar or seminar that has credits that have been approved by the New York State Department of State, then all of those credits count. If there is a seminar or webinar that you want to attend that's not officially sanctioned by New York State Department of State, you need to let Noreen know, you need to let me know, because we actually have to ask the town board whether we can get credits for it.
Yeah, so disregard the email I sent today.
So,
I have
you know,
to check that
it has
one.
to be and the purpose of that is just that the town board decides whether in fact it is something that's related to the work that we do as planners. So if there is, you know, and if you see something, you find something interesting and you want to attend it and you want to get credits for it, again, let Noreen know. She'll CC me. We send it off to the town board and they'll say, yes, you can, you know, get 1 credit or 2 credits or, you know, whatever their determination is. So just a reminder about that. So remember to get your training credits in. You know, we do have a requirement as far as absences. You know, you want to make sure no more than 4 absences during a year. And that's, you know, it doesn't mean that automatically you're off the board. But for whatever reasons, if there's a constant situation where someone is not attending, then that gives the town board grounds to put someone else on the board. And their concern is just making sure there's continuity. We do not have alternates like other boards in New York State. It's just us. So it also affects our ability, you know, if there are too many absences, to actually have quorums and make decisions. So just reminding everybody about the, you know, the attendance policy. And I think we're all good right now. So with that, if there's nothing else.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
So if we attended the seminars that, or the webinars that were emailed to us, I know I didn't get any certificates from those. Should I reach out to those people or would Noreen know already?
No,
It wasn't listed on that thing she sent us.
Yeah, that's an instance where, so if again, it's not officially sanctioned. So when it's sanctioned, that's when you tend to get some certification.
Okay.
Indicating that you attended.
So
When
I
it's
would have
not,
to email, like I did the solar parking lots. I think that was Rockland Goes Green. So I would have to email them and to verify that I did attend, or
Yeah,
Noreen
I
know
think-
'cause I signed up.
I think that it's just good to, you know, have them send you an email. But again, I think was that one that said it specifically gave you training credits?
I think the email from Noreen
it came
said
from
we could use it for
Miller.
credits.
I think that one
Okay.
came from Arlene Miller.
Normally, if
Alright.
they're planning Federation events, then they count, but we'll make sure. We'll look
Alright.
into it, Lisa.
Yeah, I'll look into it
And so-
also then.
So the community preservation webinar, the Community Preservation Act webinar, that wasn't necessarily a sponsored event, but that's one where I asked the supervisor, could we get credit for it?
Oh.
And he indicated that we could. So they weren't giving out any certifications, but I was on it. I saw that you were on it, and Pat, I think you were on it. So we did get credit for that.
Oh, we did. Okay, because
Mhm.
what was attached to the email didn't have the credits that I took. So then I was just wondering if I had to follow up with that, which I will.
Yeah.
I'll-
Yeah, so I mean, follow up, and then if you're in doubt as to whether something, I think as a general policy, again, we should always probably just check with the town board to make sure that they're sponsored events. Typically, the Planning Federation events are considered official events.
Okay.
We'll get that clarified.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure thing. And if you see something you really want to attend and it's not necessarily a New York State event, but it's all about zoning, again, email Noreen and we'll look at it and then see if we can get credits for it.
Well, I've only attended the in-person ones where they give you the certificate, so you got your credits. These
Right.
webinars, it's hard to determine, so
Right, and now we're in this new world,
you.
so,
thank you.
okay,
Honey,
with that, yes.
sorry, just while we're on that topic, last December, I attended Pace University's Land Use Law Center annual conference, which the town board did approve as training hours for me. This year, they're doing it virtually. I got an
Right.
email on this, which I can forward to everyone. It's happening December 7th through the 10th. So if you had any opportunity to attend any of these things, you could certainly, mention that to Noreen and Bonnie, and they could see if they would grant that. But I can really recommend any of these things. It was a great conference. If you're available in particular on Thursday, they're doing these. It looks like it varies different times, but there's something called Lessons from the Luminaries of Land Law, and it's for very, very experienced land use law attorneys. Very educational, very funny, and very enlightening as to what's really kind of state of the art in land use law and what some of the cases that are going on and some of the suits that have been happening and that kind of thing. They're really trying to keep everybody current on where we're at and where the danger zones are. So I will forward that out to the rest of the group. You can see if you're interested at all and available.
Okay, Jeff,
Thank you.
Yeah.
on that one, I have it.
Okay.
There's fees for that class. So I just need to get approval from the town board that I can send so many members. So I sent it to Bonnie and Tony. I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
Because there's
I
$30.
don't recall seeing that, Noreen, so resend it to me.
No problem. I sent it to you and Mike, and he says he doesn't see it either. So stuff of mine seems to be getting locked in my draft and then disappearing. So I have to have my computer looked at.
Okay.
But yeah, I have
that's like a 3-day event, if I recall. I don't know what the cost is for it.
Yeah, it's
It's $30 per class or $100 if you do all 4
For a planning board member.
per member.
Okay.
So I sent it to you. I checked to make sure that there was something in the budget, and then I sent it to Tony, and I haven't heard back. So that's why I haven't circulated it yet, because I have
Okay.
to have approval before anything that has charges that I can do.
Right, because I'm actually already
But I'll
attending,
send it
but
back to
we're sponsoring the event. So that means that there would be
Yeah.
six. So let me find out from the supervisor. And
I'll send it to you in the morning.
okay, actually, I'll send an email now, otherwise I'll forget.
Okay.
Too
'Cause
small.
yeah, I sent him an email the other day, but I haven't heard back from him.
So this is the land use law center.
Yeah. And these are webinar ones this year.
Okay, I will send something out,
All right, thank you.
and then we can find out who's interested.
Right, because I have.
And so you said it was 30
go.
per, 30
Per-
per,
Class or $100 if they take all 4.
okay. Anything else? All right, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting, John Allegro?
Nope.
Would someone else like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Pat. We have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Anthony. All in favor, raise your hand.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Good night.
Have a
Till
good
next
evening,
time.
everyone.
Night,
Stay
everyone.
safe.
Night.
Bye.